Good gratitude day, everybody. My name is Destiny Muhammad, and I want to give a big shout out to my friend and sister Gail Boyd for hosting Alternative Venues for Jazz on her wonderful page, and a big shout out to our big brother Walter Beach as well, her wonderful husband. I got 30 minutes, so I'm going to try to keep it tight. She is giving me permission to share a little bit with you all. Ooh, I'm so pleased to be back. This is my second time, and I've had an opportunity to listen to some of my other wonderful contemporaries. So I'm just going to share a little bit with you about me. My journey as a musician started much older than most of my contemporaries. As an instrumentalist and vocalist, I started at the age of 30, and I'll keep it kind of tight. Some of you all may have known my story where I started dating a man at the age of 30 whose best friend was a harp builder, and I got my first harp at the age of 30. He was a gentleman was here in the Bay Area where I lived, who was making harps, and I got my first harp in 1992 and started taking harp lessons in May of 1992. And the journey has just been incredible. I've learned so much about myself and about life and about people. So I'm just grateful for this opportunity to be a musician and specifically to be playing jazz. It is the sound of Black America, past, present, and with God's grace, even the future. And this is Destiny Muhammad talking. So my sister Gail asked me, she said, how did you get into jazz? If we go back in time, when I was a shorty living in Compton, California, from any of you all familiar with Compton, I remember there was a radio station called KGFJ, and then on the heels it was KJLH. And both of these stations would actually play a combination of both jazz, gospel, and R&B on the station. But I started to hear the sounds of Quincy Jones, who we know is like the dude, as he calls himself, just in the jazz world and the R&B world and the music world in particular. And I started hearing some of his music in his albums like Body Heat on Buffalo Soldier, Everything Must Change. These were songs that I was hearing that even made me feel like I might be knowing a little bit about jazz and not a lot. So that was my first hearing of that sound, is Quincy on KJLH specifically, which was at that time and went on to become, better said, Stevie Wonder's. Hey there, Gail. Thank you so much. Stevie Wonder, the incredible Stevie Wonder. This was his radio station. And he had a DJ on there who called himself King Oliver. My name is King Oliver, and I'm going to take you through those Gemini changes. And he would play Cuba Gooding's dad's music on that radio station. And Cuba Gooding's dad at that time was doing this kind of pollination of soul jazz, jazz, R&B off of his Aphrodisiac album. Some of y'all probably ain't old enough to remember that. Probably might have even been on the planet. But he had written a song called Rolling Down the Mountainside. God is on your side, rolling down the mountainside. And that for me was jazz, because it wasn't quite R&B to me, not as I understood it, because I was thinking more like Ohio Players and Bootsy Collins and such. But that became like the inkling for me of jazz. So that was almost like my introduction, if you will, to the sound of jazz. Remember, I was surrounded by primarily R&B and not even hip-hop, because hip-hop hadn't really come out then. And she asked me, she said, what was the first album that you purchased with your own money, your own jazz album? And when I go back in time, before I even purchased with my own money a jazz album, I want to say that I had purchased before that Rufus featuring Chaka Khan. And it was I want to say it was that black album with a tiny little picture of Chaka Khan on there with a short afro. And Rufus was the feature on that album. And it was something about that sound that I needed to have in my life. And she sang several songs on there with Rufus as the lead. But I think on that album was the song "And Love Will Grow," a beautiful ballad that I believe that Chaka wrote herself. Don't really hear it too much. I've done a couple of covers of it just at weddings, an alternate to some other songs. And that was the first album that I purchased with my own money that even made me feel like I was moving into jazz. But the first jazz album, there were two. Miles Davis, Kind of Blue. And on the heels of that, I purchased Dorothy Ashby, the jazz harpist. I purchased her, not the hip hop, not the hip harpist, but let me remember the name of that wonderful album. Dorothy Ashby, the jazz harpist. That was my first one to purchase. So when I was starting to really move into jazz, I was really starting to hear the sound of Miles. Now, mind you, the Kind of Blue was definitely an older LP. But I started to really want to hear the sound and wanted to go back in time so that I could move forward in the sounds. So it was Miles Davis, Kind of Blue. And then I went on to venture to listen to Dorothy Ashby. And I want to say, I think part of the way that I heard Dorothy Ashby was after I had heard Alice Coltrane playing on the radio station here. At that time, it was called K Jazz. Now it's called KCSM. And Alice was on there, and she was playing Blue Nile. Ooh. And I hadn't been playing very long, and my boyfriend at the time, he told this friend of his, where we were hearing this, he says, my girlfriend, she play harp. And oh, Gail, you do Dorothy Ashby, the jazz harpist. That Dorothy Ashby, the one that really is my favorite, that hits my heart, is In a Minor Groove. It's Dorothy Ashby in a minor groove with Frank West, Roy Haynes are the musicians that are with her on that. Frank was the one who introduced her to that label, and I got to remember, I'm so excited just to be back on. But definitely the jazz harpist is excellent. But get Dorothy Ashby in a minor groove, and then we gonna sit and chat over coffee, some strong coffee, and some tea cakes, because that's my album right there. So I was talking about, excuse me, talking about Alice Coltrane and hearing Blue Nile, and I think I'd been playing maybe about a year, 2 years, and we were with a friend of my boyfriend's at the time, and he said, yeah, my girlfriend, she play harp. And dude looked down at me with only the look that a jazz aficionado that don't play nothing but the radio looked down at me, because he was tall, man. If you can't play like that, you can't play. And she, I was all kind of way, all kind of unconfident. It was true. I couldn't play like that. I didn't know how to play like that, but I want to, you know. And so or Alice became a part of my Alice became a part of my quest, even though I've been introduced to Alice in a very unusual way at a bookstore in Los Angeles that is since, I think, only virtual now, called the Bodhi Tree Bookstore, that was in LA. And there was a picture of Alice Coltrane in that bookstore that led into the portion of the bookstore. And I didn't know who she was, but I would stand and look at her picture every time before I would go into the Eastern philosophy side. Like I said, I was a shorty. We're talking like 70s, maybe 73, 74. My mom would take us to this bookstore, but I didn't know her music. But then we fast forward, we're back, and I got a chance to hear that first sound of Alice, and it was like, ah. And then Dorothy, I was like, oh. So both of those, just so you know, they're my heart mamas, and they make sure that I'm riding a wave of jazz as strong as possible. So that was my first purchasing Kind of Blue by Miles Davis, and then Dorothy Ashby's hip hop, and then I was like, huh, I gotta do something. I gotta really do something, man. And then so I know she's asked me about my current projects. Dick Gale has been kind. I've got about 3 commissionings that I am blessed to have, and they're going to really be revealed in the spring of 2022. So keep your ear to the Destiny ground, and I'll be telling you more about them. But I also want to tell you about this project that I'm going to do at SF Jazz coming on February the 3rd. And that particular wonderful project, and initially been invited to write a piece of music, very deeply improvisational, about a woman by the name of Rosie Lee Tompkins. Thank you, Gail. Rosie Lee Tompkins is an African American quilter who started her quilting journey at the age of 40. Worked very improvisational. And so I was invited by the Berkeley Art Museum Pacific Film Archive to create a piece by that. And I did an original piece of that at their museum, very COVID conscious. So it was just myself, my trio, one of Leon Lewis Jr. on drums and Chico Lopez on upright bass, and their audio visual team. But I wanted to have the opportunity to really revisit it again and to bring in even more textures. So now it's called Textures, Colors, Tones. We're going to debut that again at SF Jazz, and it will be Leon Joyce Jr. on drums, Chico Lopez on upright bass, Matt Wong, composer and arranger, he will be on piano, Shirley Muramoto on koto, and spoken word by Minister Marvin K. White of Glide Memorial Church in San Francisco. If you haven't got your tickets, you won't get them because we're going to be there. It'd be lovely to see you in the house on February the 3rd, 2022. And then I got blessed again last year. And I'll talk a little bit about last year. 2021 was incredible. In 2020, I got invited by the San Francisco Symphony to curate a piece based on whatever I was feeling in the moment. And the piece is called Resilience. And so within that, it's a 45-minute piece of music that curated based on just coming through this thing that we're calling the pandemic. And it was called Resilience for the San Francisco Symphony Soundbox. And got a chance to do that, which was so fantastic. And did that work. And the conductor for the work, who was also the conductor for the Santa Cruz Symphony, he said, "Hey, Des, you want to come and do something at the Santa Cruz Symphony?" And who was about to say no? Not Destiny. So we're going to go on February the 11th through the 13th. Yes, I'm going to be appearing with the Santa Cruz Symphony, again with my wonderful cats. It'll be Leon Joyce Jr. on drums, and it'll be Cuzzo, Criswell's cousin, that we just found out about 2 years ago is his cousin, Ron Belcher on upright bass, and Matt Wong again on piano. We're going to do one of my original arrangements, and then a piece with the symphony. Got to check it out. Santa Cruz Symphony in California. That's going to happen February 11th through the 13th. So we'd love to see you all there. I don't know if they're going to stream it, but if they do, it would be great to see you all in the virtual house as well. Right. All right. So I told you about that. I really have a lot. And this time is moving. How about this? So advice from an older musician. One of my wonderful mentors who joined the Ancestors, I want to say in 2020, Eddie Gale. Eddie Gale was signed to Blue Note Records. And I met Eddie, light years ago, probably like 1999 in San Francisco, at an event that was being hosted by a man by the name of Marvin X. And Marvin had put on about 10,000 musicians. I probably told this story 100 times, and y'all think I'm lying, but Marvin would get everybody and put them on the show. But he only knew he had 4 hours. Marvin had 4 hours. Where Eddie came up behind me on his trumpet while I was playing with Avacha, Gilliman Terrell, and Tarika Lewis on violin. And he started playing his trumpet. And we became friends because I said, whew, he got guts, and I'm scared. I don't know who he is. But Eddie heard me in a way that only he could. And Eddie took me under his, and I became, quote, pro harvest of the Eddie Gale Inner Peace Orchestra up until the day he joined the Ancestors. Eddie always encouraged me to be me. Whatever my sound was, whatever it was, he said, you got to own it. You got to be it, and don't let anybody try to make you be something else. Be that and all of that. And I invite you all to do the same, because I know sometimes we're really encouraged to become the other, the somebody else, the next, and I could name a litany. But what I know for myself, that when I'm me, I feel strong and wonderful and confident. When I'm being me, I feel like all of my ancestors say that's what we brought you here to do, to be you and the very best you, because only you can be you. Eddie encouraged me to do that, and I'm going to encourage you all to do the same. Be yourself. Be you. Whatever your sound is, own all of it. And remember, I was written a piece called G-Dub's Livery, and we were at a friend's house, Musiki. Ooh, Musiki. What is Musiki's last name, beloved? Musiki Robertson, incredible pianist, and I had written some chord progressions different from what he was familiar with as a jazz artist of long standing. And a brother who was there, Doug Ellington, who plays trumpets, he said, you know what, them some Destiny changes. You need to play them just like Destiny wrote them. And when he realized that, he stepped right on in. And so that's why I really am very adamant about us being whoever we are, to be that. And whatever your chord progressions are when you write them, be able to own that and be respectful of your own chord progressions. This is one of the things that I've had to learn as an instrumentalist, and especially coming from an instrument such as mine that is oftentimes associated with the European continent. And that's another conversation we'll have at a later date. Let me keep moving on here because this time is in motion. Ooh, how am I coping through the pandemic? A lot of prayer. A lot of prayer and a whole lot of gratitude. I can honestly say that during this time of COVID, the generosity of people has been incredible. The love, the checking in to make sure that we're all right, me and my wonderful husband. The organizations that have sent us links to say, just apply for this, put your name down, and we'll put a little money in your Cash App, Venmo, PayPal. You got Zelle? The generosity of people. It has pushed my level of gratitude, prayer, and relationship with my ancestors at a level I couldn't have even imagined. Just going all the way there to the point when we go out and we drive past what appears, my husband calls people the citizens, not the homeless, that we make sure that when we drive past them, we send a little prayer for them and thank the ancestors and God of our understanding to continue to put hedges of protection around them and give them the things that they require and need. It has pushed that. The creativity level, I have been blessed to be in virtual residencies almost since the pandemic started, and maybe not a whole bunch of them, but the three, Raise Karma, where I was in a residency with wonderful musicians from all over the world. That is just, that being able to share and to keep the camaraderie going and the friendships and the love going with people virtually. And even in person, just checking in on folks and checking in on us, playing my instrument and doing my best to continue to get better. This is literally the prayer, the faith, the gratitude, the music. Yes, this is how I've been coping with the pandemic. Let me see, virtual collaborations and residencies. I mentioned that. Did a collaboration in Bali, Indonesia via this internet. And young man's name is Chaka. I apologize, Gail, for not getting that to you, but that was one of the collaborations. It's already out now on all streaming platforms. A young man in Indonesia played a jazz festival with my trio virtually in Indonesia. With the San Francisco Symphony, I mentioned the Resilience Project. With Grace Cathedral, which is a huge church in San Francisco, invited me to curate Soulful Joy, a Christmas based on how Destiny saw Christmas. They loved the virtual so much that we literally got invited to come back, me and the Soulful Joy Ensemble, and we did it in person. The reception was phenomenal, and I'm so unapologetically grateful. Now, you know, I can go, this time I didn't realize it went so quickly. 100th Hill, I did a virtual recording with 100th Hill, Krista Detour out of Indiana, that just went phenomenally well. The goodness that just keeps coming through, the blessings that just keep coming through, and I feel like it's the gratitude for each breath. How many people have joined the ancestors that thought they were going to be here? The names continue. And I'll just share this. Betty White. Here, People Magazine still got it out there. She's turning 100. She is, as an ancestor. I'm grateful for every breath. Let me keep going here. Advice to young musicians. I want to say that this advice to young musicians of all youthful ages. How about that many? I'm going to invite you to be kind. Remember, I didn't say nice. I said be kind, first of all, to yourself and to all of your contemporaries and everyone that you meet, because you don't know who could put you on. Trust me on that, because you don't know who. Study your craft and be your best. Not Miles's best. And like I said, Dorothy Ashby's my mama. Not Dorothy's best, but your best. Be kind to yourself and and study your craft. Be your best. This is something don't nobody talk about all the time until the GoFundMe come out. Learn how to manage your money. Nobody told me this. Let me tell you. Learn how to manage your money. There are nonprofits, especially here in the Bay Area, Intersection for the Arts, Inner Music, a Center for Cultural Innovation. Girl, because ain't nobody kind of RK. I don't say it out loud. Learn how to manage your money. Intersection for the Arts, Inner Music, Center for Cultural Innovation often have financial literacy for musicians. I'm not telling you what I think, I'm telling you what I know. And I'm you so funny, girl, for real. Learn how to manage your money. Learn how to manage your money. And I'm saying that from my older elders too. And I will tell you, my good sister, friend, bestie, hallelujah, Brandy Younger. I hadn't heard this book in 100 years, but she said, girl, I need for you to get The Billionaire Babylon. What is it? Richest Man in Babylon. She said, I need for you to read that and manage your money. I said, yes, ma'am. That's what I'm going to say to my older musicians. Don't be afraid to learn from your younger ones. Some of them can put you on Facebook, usually you already know. Come on, some of your younger contemporaries can put you on to some information, which goes back to something else. Humble yourself. The Richest Man in Babylon, baby. But learn how to manage your money. Learn how to manage your money. I have several prayers that I say every day, and one of them that I learned to say over this year, I manage my money God's way. The God of your understand, whatever church, I don't care where you go. Learn how to manage your money. 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 I know I've said it a million times. Come on. The financial literacy courses are available, many of them free. Organizations, as I mentioned earlier, sometimes they'll even have a grant to pay for you to get. Thank God bless you, honey. I love you back. I don't know who you are.
Richard.
It's I love you, Richard. Love you, love you, love you. Richard Howell. Love you, Richard. But I tell you these things because being an artist, the starving artist, is unsexy. It's all right. It's all for, and the starving jazz artist, cut it out. Quit playing. It's all right for you to have wealth and be a great person. Contrary to popular, it is very unsexy. Trust me. Trust me. The starving artist and the starving jazz artist, my family in the hip hop world, and we need to learn from them. Just like they take and resample Brit. Ooh, Robert Glasper talks about how Ahmad Jamal's music was sampled and repurposed, and that hip hop artist is doing very, very, very well. With that being said, it is all right for us to be financially viable and sexy, and then we can be philanthropic. I know sometimes it's not the most comfortable conversation to have, and I will tell you, in my house as a shorty, wasn't nobody trying to talk about money because they was scared. But as I have matured and become vintage, we gonna have this conversation. Yes, baby, you already know. It's all right to take your money, take a business course. There are so many small. This is something else. Well, I'm not going to say that just yet. But it's all right for you to be wealthy and to be comfortable and to be just doing well as an artist. I'm going to go back again to kindness. Be kind to people, not nice. Be kind to yourself and your contemporaries. Be gracious and say thank you, not just once, not just twice. Sometimes you got to say it 3 times. There's a book called Selling the Invisible. The man's last name is Beckwith. I don't remember his first name. But one of the things that he talks about is say thank you often. But regardless of what the pay is, say thank you. Regardless of what the hit is, say thank you. I will share with you as we get close to this time for me to stop talking and maybe ask some questions. Michael Beckwith, come on, babe. During this time of pandemic, before 2021 had closed out, and as a matter of fact, from late June, I want to say almost until the middle of November, I played for 5 funerals. I said thank you to all of those people because they were very gracious and their hearts were open because their hearts were broken. A 9-year-old child and a 95-year-old individual. Those were the last ones. And at one of those funerals that I played at, it was probably about $10,000 worth of flowers. I was asked to play outdoors at casket side. $10,000 worth of flowers on the casket and all around. On the other side, if you're familiar with gravesite locations, they have a little road. On one side, the $10,000 worth of flowers where I was playing, and directly across that on the gravesite was a $5 bottle of Hennessy. $10,000, $5. But they were both getting ready to go in the ground. Be kind to everybody, especially yourself. Say thank you all the time. Make sure that the client, your contemporaries, know that you are grateful. Be grateful. Be grateful. God bless you and keep you with God's grace. I'll see you again. My name is Destiny Muhammad. Thank you, Gail Boyd. Thank you, Gail Boyd. Thank you, Gail Boyd. And thank you all, too. Happy New Year.